Good afternoon, everybody, or morning. I think we're right, maybe on the line. Welcome everybody to our Brown Bag series. I'm Dr. Warren Doctor, the President and CEO of the East Tennessee Historical Society. Hey, Jan. Hey, I need to talk to you. Anyway, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming out and listening to our speaker today. I just want to remind everybody, if you're not a member of the East Tennessee Historical Society, to please join. And are we good in the back?
Yeah, we were just checking something.
Okay. And I should also say that in terms of coming up, we haven't planned a whole lot on our calendar because we're planning on being out and around in a lot of the events around the 250th, which I imagine everyone in this room, I know our speaker knows, is this year. But we do have another Brown Bag coming up on June 17th, which is looking at Civil War photos and how to forensically read them. So that'll be very good. But we are planning on being out in the community and working with lots of different historical societies across the region, in all in all the counties about the 250th of the country. And so, in many ways, this aligns with our speaker. We're very excited to have Donna here. She is the archivist for Washington County. I don't know if that's your formal title, but and she has a tremendous amount of experience in genealogical and historical research. She's the founding member of the Cemetery Survey Team of Northeast Tennessee, and has served in Washington County in several capacities. And Washington County, and I'm sure a lot of you know this as well, is our oldest county and one of our most historically important counties. I'm going to take this moment to get on my high horse a little bit. I have always been frustrated with histories around the Revolutionary War and what preceded it because they have underplayed the Watauga Compact.
Amen.
Right. I realize I'm preaching to the choir here, but I'm going to take my moment to do that. It has been written about numerous times. Thomas Jefferson celebrated it. Of course, you know Teddy Roosevelt wrote about it when he wrote his History of America. Historians have touched on it. But the Watauga Compact, I mean, I'm just saying this because we're talking about the 250th, was an enormous moment historically for the whole nation because this was the first moment that there was a group of people who left and did their own thing independently. Now, there's lots of stuff around it. You know, it's a complex thing. Was it right for them to lease the land and then later take the land from the Indians? Probably not, particularly the Cherokee. There's lots of complexities around it, but it is a moment of independence which I think ought to be celebrated. And I said this as much in my article in the paper the other day, along with all the things that were going on in New England. But it's often left out because the histories of the American Revolution were typically written by New England scholars immediately after the American Revolution. I gave a talk the other day to a historical society, and they had never heard, not everyone, but a few of the people there had never heard of the Battle of Kings Mountain. No. That's shocking, right? I mean, that's genuinely shocking. And what's interesting to me is, now most of the people that I was speaking to were transplants. If you're from East Tennessee, of course you know about the Battle of Kings Mountain. But you have to remember that a lot of this isn't taught in schools. And when it is taught in schools, they focus on the Northeast. And everyone, talks about Saratoga, and, you maybe know that Cornwallis leaves Yorktown, and that's kind of the end of the show. These moments, right, at the Watauga Compact, the Overmountain Men, I mean, my whole thesis of the American Revolution is the point at which it turned was at the Battle of King Mountain. There's a direct line from Kings Mountain, I know you know, Donna, goes all the way to Yorktown. And so I think this is a moment for us, particularly in the South, particularly in East Tennessee, to say, hey, we really helped build this country. And we've been left out of the story a little bit. So I'm hoping that over the course of the next few years, celebrating all the way to maybe 2030, when we can celebrate the 250th of the actual Battle of Kings Mountain, that we can correct the record a little bit. And to help us do that today is Donna from Washington County. Please
I've got a lot to say, and you probably shouldn't have said a word about Kings Mountain, because that is one of my one of my things. I love the story surrounding the Battle of Kings Mountain. And I actually watched the Ken Burns Revolutionary War, and I was so excited for them to get to the South. And then they took about 3 minutes, and then it was over. And I was like, you didn't even mention John Sevier. How dare you not mention John Sevier? So anyway, but I didn't come to talk to you about that today, but you got it started. Can't help it. My name is Donna, and I'm really happy to be here. I've been in and out of this building many times when Cheryl was here, Cheryl Henderson. She was a good friend of mine, and I still miss her, and I still think about her. She was wonderful. But I want to talk to you today. This presentation has morphed a little bit through the few months that I knew I was going to do it. So I wanted to touch on what he said about Washington County being the first county that was formed in Tennessee. And this is what this is what it looked like. Washington County went all the way to the Mississippi River. Now this is us in Washington County today, and there's our little county. So we're up in Northeast Tennessee, if you didn't know where I was, and we have the oldest records in the state. We're very fortunate. Our archives is funded by a records fee, and that fee there's a fee that's tacked on to different records within the county. Like when you get married, you're going to pay an extra $5 on the license. And that's tacked on to several different things. Business, if you open a business, you pay an extra $5, and that is funneled into us, and that's how we operate. That's how I have a staff. So, and I'd like to introduce them. This is Brittany and Sam. They take care of me. They watch me and make sure I stay in line. Make sure I don't jump off a bridge once in a while. But we're very fortunate. We have 2 locations where all of our records are housed in Jonesboro. This is our office building. And then we have 2 floors of the jail at the back of the courthouse, the old jail, that has been renovated, and we have records there too. And the reason that we need so much space is because we are not a burned county. We have records that we have found in our collection that goes back to 1771. So we have the oldest records in the state of Tennessee, and we are very proud of that fact. We've done everything that we can do to make them accessible. We're still working on that. We're still scanning, and we're beginning now to put stuff online. So at the end of the presentation, you'll see how to get to our website. And I encourage all of you, if you have any ties at all to Northeast Tennessee, to check it out. We have lots of different records. Since we are a county archives and we're funded by the county, our primary job is to take care of Washington County's records. We don't have a lot of what you would call manuscript collections or genealogical collections. We have just a little bit, but it was only because somebody said, this is going in the dumpster if you don't take it. So we try to route things like that to another organization. But we have marriage licenses, and our marriage licenses go back into the 1700s. We have wills, and our earliest will is dated 1773, and that's actually a scan of it right there. It's very interesting. We have court cases. That was where the first courts were held. We had judicial court that started very early during the Watauga district. So we have court cases that go back into the 1700s. And then as soon as government took hold in Northeast Tennessee, then we started taxing people, and we have tax lists. And I was so surprised. I had spent a large amount of time looking for tax lists because there were lots of books that said, Washington County had this tax list and such was on it. Well, I needed to look at that, because if you're a good genealogist, you say, I want to see it. So I even made a trip down here. One of our tax lists had been donated, 1797, I'll never forget it. We drove all the way down here and I said, I need to look at it. And Cheryl brought it out for me and I was able to look at it and take a picture of the entry on it that I wanted. But it's amazing that we have what we have, and we've not had a big fire or anything to destroy it. So our records are pretty much complete. We had, when we found the box of tax list in the basement of the courthouse, I was stunned, because I didn't think that there was a box like that in the world, but there was. We also have a pretty good map collection, but now you won't find anything that's dating back to the 1700s in there. You'll find a lot of topographical maps. We have some old topographical maps. We also have a few hand-drawn, very precise location maps. We have Chancery Court, and Chancery Court dealt with day-to-day squabbles about property and estates and things like that. And they would draw out the plat and put it in as evidence in a case. And we have gone through those cases and we have pulled those, and we have those available too. And they're really some interesting ones. We found one time that had a man's chicken coop drawn in on it. So yeah, they're really great. We have great pictures. I've been working on our photograph collection, and we're up to somewhere around 460 photos. So, you know, and there are pictures in these Chancery Court cases. There are pictures in law court. So we don't pull those, we scan them in and we keep them, and then we put them back with the case. We have, if you didn't know, Andrew Jackson spent a large amount of time in Jonesboro, and we're really proud of that. I know he doesn't have the best reputation, and if you hate him, I can understand that, but he was a president and he was in Jonesboro. It's my little bobblehead. I've got some presidential bobbleheads. But we have a lot of records that were signed by Andrew Jackson. And at this point, I'm thinking it's maybe 30, maybe 40 that are signed by him. And there's one book in our collection, one of the handwritten books that was actually written by Andrew Jackson. So I've become an expert on realizing when I see an Andrew Jackson signature if it's real or not. I can pretty much tell you. We have a lot. This one really surprised me. When we found the first State of Franklin records in the basement of the courthouse, I just about had a stroke. I was just running around, and y'all aren't going to believe what we found. We found State of Franklin, and we probably have 30 or 40 documents that were written during the time period of the State of Franklin, and they're tagged as such. If you'll see on this one is not tagged, but this relates to the battle that was fought at Tipton Haynes for the State of Franklin. But this one says State of Franklin, F-R-A-N-L-I-N. And I thought, well, I can't put that. That's the only one I can't put that in there. So I pulled this one the other day and scanned it in, and it does say Franklin. So, you know, there were others who didn't agree with the area's idea to leave and become another state. They wanted to stay with North Carolina. But, you know, if you're from East Tennessee, you're probably either a Franklinite or a Tiptonite. Yeah. You know, at least one shook their head. I am definitely a Franklinite, so I'll just tell you. So we have lots of those records, and they're very historical. A lot of them have some really good content in them. And if you didn't know, several years ago, in 2021, we were able to get our first deed book returned from Nashville. It had gone down there during the centennial celebration in 1897, and we had tried to convince them that it was our book and we needed it back. And finally, we found enough proof that we sent it up there and sent it to everybody we could find in Nashville, and they said, you know, you're right, it is your book. On the inside of it, it says Land Records of Washington County. I don't know how hard that was, but apparently it was really difficult. But the governor brought the book back to us. He brought it into town riding on a horse and buggy, and we thought it was the coolest thing ever. And the Oak Ridge boys were there, by the way. That was cool too. But this is the signatures of the Cherokees that signed that land agreement, the Watauga Purchase. The first 4 pages of that book are about the land agreement with the Cherokee, and this is the 4 Cherokee chiefs that made their mark in the book. And we'll actually show it to you too. We'll bring it out and let you look at it. I'm going to tell you a story now. Really, after thinking about this for a few days, I thought, you know, everybody kind of knows who we are and what we do because we've been doing it for 10 years now. But we found a story that you're just not going to believe. If you've not heard of Bricker's Republic, you're not going to believe this story. I'm going to kind of read this because it's got a lot of detail to it. I had a gentleman come into the office one day, and he said to me, he works at the library, and he said, we found in our genealogical files a paper about Bricker's Republic. And I said, what in the world is that? And he said, you don't know about Bricker's Republic? And I said, I don't. He said, well, let me tell you. So he had the name wrong, he had the time period wrong, he had a bunch wrong. But I set about to try to figure out what that was. I wrote this and did a historical history. Help me, what is that? That's not it's on our website, Hidden Voices, article about it. In all my genealogical and historical diggings, I had never heard of Bricker's Republic. The story begins early in the Civil War when tensions were high in East Tennessee. Many people wished to secede from the Union and join the Confederacy, but others wanted to stay with the Union. The people of East Tennessee favored staying within the Union, but a vote was taken and the state officially voted to leave the Union on June 8, 1861. Washington County was one of the counties that their vote was overwhelmingly in favor of staying with the Union. The vote was 1,475 to 1,001. Yeah, did I miss one?
Go back.
Yeah, go back. Here it is. You can see on this list, we actually have the voter forms that were sent in after the votes were taken by anybody's way. These were listed of how each district voted. And we had a little group in District 2 that decided to kick up a fuss. If you look at all of these, you can see that most districts in Washington County voted against separating from the Union. So, and this is a little map that tells where District 2 is. It's just a little tiny area in Washington County. Okay. So, people got mad. The good people of District 2 had a problem with the state voting to secede. And they said, we ain't gonna do it. So they took matters into their own hands, and District 2 seceded from the state of Tennessee, from Washington. They seceded from Washington County. They said they were seceding from Tennessee, and they were going to be Bricker's Republic. So they actually had a cabinet. They had a president. His name was Jacob Hill, and he decided that he was going to. Let me go back and read, because it's better if I get my thoughts together about it. 97 men in that county were very dissatisfied and decided that they were going to do something. So Congress was elected. The area was named Bricker's Republic, and they decided this was the way it was going to be. They didn't care what anybody said. On Friday, October 13th of 1865, in the local newspaper, the Union flag, a letter was printed under the heading, Foreign Correspondence. And it was sent from the, quote, capital of Bricker's Republic. The letter was written by, quote, one of the cabinet. Didn't sign his name. And it reflected their displeasure in being a part of the state that had just seceded from the Union. And I'm going to quote this a little bit, and it takes just a minute, but it is well worth hearing. He said in this letter, after enduring with the most Catholic forbearance a long train of abuses and injuries systematically practiced upon us, our dearest rights ruthlessly trampled down by tyrannic legislation, taking the action of Tennessee in her complicated difficulty with the United States government as our precedent, we relieved ourselves of this baneful state of affairs in founding a government of justice and impartiality to sectional interest. In thus proceeding, we found we had certain, quote, reserved rights, of which we had hitherto been ignorant, which perfectly justified our course. The purpose of our government may be stated as twofold. One, to defend, maintain, and rigidly enforce those laws which secure to every man tranquil and undisturbed enjoyment of his inalienable rights and immunities. Number two, to demonstrate the problem from time immemorial in process of solution, every man's capacity to govern himself. Kind of sounds like a nice place, doesn't it? So the letter also stated that their president, His Excellency is what they called him, Jacob Hill, was now at Washington, and he had gone there to negotiate in this matter. And this matter was stated as being reconstructing the U.S. government. So now think about it. You've got a man going into Washington, D.C. He goes maybe into the White House. I don't know where he went. But he went to D.C. and said, I'm here to talk to you about Bricker's Republic, and we want to secede from the state of Tennessee. You can imagine how that went. I have no idea what happened, but it must have been ugly, because he came back and nothing else was said about Bricker's Republic. It just went by the wayside. I assume he got there and nobody would listen to him. But he came home, and his obituary can later be found in the local Jonesboro paper. And there is a mention of, it's this long, and there is a mention of everything the man ever did in his life except that he was president of Bricker's Republic. On the flip side, Bricker's Republic kept that name. That district was called Bricker's Republic for many years after that. This happened, of course, right after during the Civil War. And by the 1880s, there were still articles in the newspaper where they would put little local things that were going on, and they would say from Brooker's Republic. So the name stuck. It held on for a little while, but we actually had a district that tried to secede. So, okay, so go back. Well, there we go. Another project that I want to talk to you about is our Early Landowners Project. And we started this a few years ago. We were given a CD from a recently deceased woman in our neighborhood, in our area that we knew, had done tons of genealogical diggings through the years. And she had a database, and I visited her several months before she passed away. And she had cancer. We knew she was sick. But she took me upstairs. She said, I want to show you something. She showed me, opened up this database on her computer, and it showed all of these early landowners that I knew. A lot of them I was related to. And she had platted them on a map of Northeast Tennessee. And she had done the work, the land work, the deed work, and she was able to put them on a map. And I wanted to ask her for a copy of that, but I just couldn't. So after she passed away and her husband passed away, one of her sons contacted the archives to see if we wanted some of her books. And of course, we took some. And Ned, the former archivist, asked about that database. And they said, absolutely, you can have a copy. I don't know where that goes or what it came from, but it just fell. So, I don't know either. We'll just lay it aside. Nobody worries.
It's got to do with the video that is being
okay.
recorded in the back. Let's get it.
That's why it fell. It was duct tape.
Yep.
Yep. So what we do with the early landowners, we have a gentleman in Washington County that's really good at platting deeds. And he takes our friend Lucy's work and he brings that land forward in time by using more modern deeds and makes sure that it's in the right location, makes sure that she had it in the right location. And he plots it on a normal topographical map or like sometimes on Google Earth. And then he sends that to me. And I use whatever records that we have been blessed with to have in our archives to create some kind of biography for that person. And that's what we call our Early Landowners Project. We pull documents that have their signature on it, or if they have a will, we pull that, and all of that is included in their story. And this is actually John Sevier, one of his plots of land down on the Nolichucky River. And then this was hand-drawn on the deed. So they actually drew it out and showed it. And this is John Sevier's signature on that Watauga purchase too, because he was one of the ones that signed the Watauga purchase that I showed you earlier with the Native Americans. And this guy is one of my favorite early landowners. His name is Hugh Harris. And the first time we found his tombstone, we read it and we were like, what? It was really damaged. It was really hard to tell what the writing said. It had been there for 250 years, no longer than that. And we just couldn't hardly read it. We just, in fact, it was so bad that we thought for a long time his name was Richard Harris. But RICHD, because we couldn't pull the name out. We finally realized that by looking at different Revolutionary War books that talked about the men of Northeast Tennessee, we realized that had to be Hugh Harris. So we went back to the cemetery and we got down on our bellies and we all laid there and we looked at it till we pulled out the inscription. The inscription on his tombstone says, "A Revolutionary soldier, 3 years under General Washington, was 48 years a member of the Baptist Church, died a Christian February 1st, 1855, aged 106 years." So I thought, yeah, right. We all know as genealogists, that sometimes when you look at, the census, they get older and older and older, and they're like 74 in one year, and then the next year the next 10 years they're 94. They age a lot. And I thought, well, that's surely what's happened here. So I started doing a little bit of research on Hugh. And we actually platted his land. It ended up being in what is now Unicoi County in the Flag Pond area. But we knew exactly where he lived. But we had to prove that his age and his service was correct. So we did. We went back to tax list. We went back to the 1826 tax list, and we found him in there. We found what he owned at the time. We got a picture of his signature, and we pulled census records from then, from 50 forward or backward, and we were able to find him. And in the 50 census, it showed that he was born in Virginia, and he listed his age as 92. So without boring you for 15 minutes and reading all of this, I can tell you that we proved that he was at least around 100 years old when he died in 1855. And if you think about it, a Revolutionary War soldier that fought to live to 1855 was very unusual. That was usually they didn't live that long. So when we researched it, it was consistently, it would go back and list it would make his date of birth be somewhere around the 1750s. So, we said he may not have been 106 exactly, but he was pretty daggone close. It also said that he fought with George Washington. And I thought, I don't know many Washington County guys that did that. So we started looking. And his pension record listed that he had been at the battles of Brandywine, Germantown, and Monmouth. And they had camped at Valley Forge. And when we went back and looked, I looked to see where George Washington was during that time and where this unit was during that time. And yes, he served under General Washington. So we were really proud to have Hugh Harris as one of our patriots in our county. And I can happily say that he now has a new marker. It's this one is still standing. They didn't take it down, but the DAR marked it several years ago. So he has a good tombstone now that'll last for a long time. And now I'm going to tell you about our favorite researcher, and no offense to anybody who's ever been in our archives. I mean, no offense. This guy is great. This guy with the camera is from England. His name is Robert Wales, and he has family here in the United States, and actually his ancestry is anchored in Washington County. So he was actually born, I can't remember exactly where, but he was born in another country, and
somewhere in South America.
Yeah. And his parents were born in 2 different countries, and they came together. And anyway, so Robert is from England now. And he comes in around every other year, and he comes and visits us at the archives, and he photographs record after record on his family tree. He probably has 2,000, 3,000 pictures that he has taken of our records from Washington County. So we decided that it would be so wonderful to do an early landowner and highlight his family. So we did that, we searched, we got all of the records together, Gordon did the deed work, and come to find out it was right down the road. So it was less than, I guess, 5 miles as crow flies from our office. So when he came in this year, we were thrilled to be able to take Robert and let him get a little bag of dirt from his ancestors' property and put it in a bag, and we're still wondering if he got it through customs or not, but he took that bag with him. And we had 3 other Bacon descendants who came and took the little tour with us, and we took him around and showed him where that Isaac Bacon, his ancestor, had his property. That was the happiest person that I think I've ever seen. He almost cried. And I got to tell you, one of the things that I've done all through my genealogical diggings is, and I've traveled a lot, I've done research everywhere. If my dead people were there, I was there looking for them. So I finally, after 2 or 3 years, I thought, I got to get connected to this some way. So I decided to take my shoe off and put my bare foot on that property that was owned by one of whatever ancestor. And I've done that, and I always had a friend with me that took my picture of my bare foot, you know. And it is so incredibly touching. You just can't describe it, to know that you are putting your foot on property that your ancestor farmed. And so Robert had said, he had told me, he said, I don't know if I'm taking my shoe off. And I said, if you don't want to take your shoe off, that's fine. We got out there, and he came up to me and he said, I had to take my shoe off. I said, okay. So I helped him, I held him, and he took his shoe off and put his bare foot on the ground. So it was wonderful. That was a wonderful, wonderful thing. And that's about all I have for today. I want you to check out our website. Our website has lots and lots and lots of scanned images on it. We have our tax list, all are scanned and on the website. We have marriage records and wills up to 1800, and we're working on judicial court and superior court, which are all in the 1700s. So we're working on getting all of that up. And another thing, I know a lot of you don't do Facebook, but we have a Facebook page, and we post on there. It's very popular. We have over 2,000 people that follow us, and we have actually had posts that have had well over 10,000 views. So we post some good stories sometimes. We have on our website, we do a series called Hidden Voices, where we find a story and we just need to tell it because it was, really strange or whatever. And, has a lot of quirks to it. And we post on Facebook and let you know that we're about to post one, and we put a link to it on our website so you can get to it. We put a link on Facebook to it. So if you've not done that, you're really going to enjoy it. So, do I have any questions? Yes, sir.
We have a question online from Billy McNamara.
Oh, gosh, I know Billy.
Wanted to know if Hugh Harris was a Welsh immigrant.
I have no idea. I didn't get him back that far. I don't know exactly where he came from. Jan?
Was the lady with the flat maps, was that by chance Lucy Gump?
It was.
Oh, my stars.
Oh, I know. It was.
Thank you.
Yes, it's a wonderful thing. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am?
I've heard of records like from Sullivan County there at East Tennessee State University. Do you have anything to do with any of their records?
I do not. Sullivan County was burned county, so they have virtually nothing before 1860, I think it was 62 when the battle was. So they have virtually nothing. their deeds survived, and there are a handful of wills, but there's only like 12 that survived. So, no, sadly, Sullivan County's kind of a dry well. Yes, sir.
Two questions. The first is about the burned county and unburned counties. What are some of the other counties like Washington County that were not burned?
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. The Civil War was brutal
Right.
on northeast Tennessee, and all of the counties surrounding us have had at least one fire.
Wow.
So we are extremely lucky. One of the counties, Clark County, has had 2 fires and a flood or something.
Yeah, they survived the Civil War, and then the clerk accidentally set the courthouse on fire.
So, yes. So we are very fortunate, very fortunate. And we have made an effort to try to get back records that have gotten out of our custody too, so.
And what was the significance of it looked like hand-drawn stamps next to, like in the Watauga Purchase, the chiefs, but then I saw also maybe non-Native Americans signed with, that was just interesting. I'd never seen that next to signatures.
Oh, it's a seal.
Is it literally just like a handwritten?
It's
seal?
hand, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just to say, yes, this is official.
Yes, okay.
Yes, I wrote this, or yes, I signed it. This is official.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what that is. And then they just made their little marks there. So. Yes, ma'am?
I want to know a little bit more about that precursor.
Okay.
Where is that District 2 at? Can you give us some modern data? It is in Jonesboro?
Conklin, it's outside of Jonesboro. Jonesboro is District 15, so it's south of Jonesboro. I want to call it Conklin area.
Like on your way to Greenville, like if you're in Jonesboro and you take the left down.
No, Greenville is a little bit,
I know, but I mean just headed that way.
yeah,
So
yeah,
is
you,
that the
yeah,
Nolichucky, that is the Blue Martin that borders it?
yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's the Nolichucky. So it's down, yeah, it's down next to the river.
Yeah.
Brooker's Republic was fascinating. That was just like, I couldn't believe somebody had something that they could tell me that I had never heard of about Washington County, but somebody did. I got a little arrogant there, I guess. Yes, ma'am?
So if a genealogist came in, what kind of help can you provide?
Oh, we'll sit down with you. We will make sure that whatever you're looking for, we will try to find. We all kind of circle our wagons and we start looking in our databases for records that pertain to your ancestor. We can usually find them in a tax list if they've been there for a while. We look through every guide that we have, court cases and things like that. So we can usually, you need to spend, excuse me, you need to spend a little more than 30 minutes. But yes, we can help you. It's also helpful if you'll let us know you're coming and you'll tell us what surnames you're looking for. And like, you know, if you know your oldest ancestor, just give us his name and dates and we'll try to pull a few things even before you get there. So. Anything else? Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
There's one other comment on Facebook, I was saving it for the last, just in the pop culture. Evidently, let's see what it says here. Kings Mountain is having a popularization moment, as it is the central plot for the final season TV series of Outlander, and the final episode.
Let me just tell you. Let me tell you about Outlander. This whole season of Outlander, it's a series on Stars that about books that were written years ago about time travelers. They're going, their last season, their last episode ever is going to be on Friday night. and it is going to be the Battle of Kings Mountain. And I tell you, I got chill bumps right now. Every time they mention John Sevier in that series, I go, oh, I know him. So, yes, if you ever get a chance to watch it, it's kind of R-rated, and you kind of have to fast forward sometimes through the parts you don't want to look at. But the storyline is excellent.
8 seasons.
Yes, 8 seasons of it. I've watched every one of them. Been sitting there on the edge of my seat just waiting for Kings Mountain. And, you know, he was talking about how Kings Mountain is largely unknown outside of our area. And I have tried, I know Sharon McCrum, I don't know if you all know, she's an author. I've talked to her many times and tried to get her to do, something. And she did a book on Kings Mountain, and it's excellent. It is excellent. But I want a movie. So I guess this episode of Outlander is going to be my movie. So, okay.
Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. I enjoyed it. Thank you.